Matthew bolted to the door and turned back to the dumbfounded women. "Did they wake her?" he asked dully. "No," sighed Rachel. "Even that could not disturb her, poor child." For a moment there was no sound but the tortured breathing. Kit had risen to her feet and stood clinging to the table's edge. Now the new fear that was stifling her broke from her lips in an anguished whisper. What would they do to her? Her aunt looked up in alarm. Matthew's black brows drew together darkly. "What concern is that of yours?" "I know her," she cried. "She's just a poor helpless old woman. Oh, please tell me. Will they harm her?" "This is Connecticut," answered Matthew sternly. "They will abide by the law. They will bring her to trial, I suppose. If she can prove herself innocent, she is safe enough. But what will they do with her now, tonight, before the trial? How do I know? Leave off your questions, girl. Is there not trouble enough in our own house tonight?" He lowered himself into a chair and sunk his head in his hands. "Go and get some sleep, Kit," urged Rachel, dreading any more disturbance. "We may need you later on." Kit stared from one to the other, half frantic with helplessness. They were not going to do anything. Unable to stop herself, she burst into tears and ran from the room. Upstairs in her own room, she stood leaning against the door, trying to collect her wits. She would have to get to Hannah, no matter what happened. She could not stay here and leave Hannah to face that mob alone. If she could, to get there in time to warn her. That was as far as she could see just now. They snatched her cloak from the peg and, carrying her leather boots in her hand, crept down the stairs. She dared not try to unbolt the great front door, but instead tiptoed cautiously through the cold company room into the back chamber and let herself out the shed door into the garden. She could hear shouts in the distance, and slipped hurriedly into her boots. She fled along the roadway. A meeting house square, she leaned against a tree for an instant to get her bearing. The crowd was gathered. A good 20 men and boys, and a few women, carried flaring pine torches, and the hoarse shouting and the heedless screaming of the women. There was a mounting violence, and a terror she had never known before closed over Kit's mind like fog. For a moment her knees sagged, and she caught at the tree for support. Then her mind cleared again, and skirted the square. Darting from tree to tree like a savage, she made her way down Broad Street and out onto South Road. She had never before seen the meadows meet by moonlight. They lay serene and still, wrapped in a thin veil of drifting mist. She found the path easily, passed the dark clump of willows, and saw ahead the deep shining pool that was Blackbird Pond, and a faint reddish glow that must be Hannah's window. Hannah's door was not even bolted. Inside, by the still flickering embers of the hearth, Hannah sat nodding in a chair, fast asleep. Kit touched the woman's shoulder gently. "Hannah, dear," she said, struggling to control her panting breath. "Wake up. 'Tis Kit. You've got to come with me quickly." "What is it?" Hannah jerked, instantly awake. "Is it a flood?" "Don't talk, Hannah. Just get into this cloak. Where are your shoes? Here, hold out your foot, quick. Now." There was not a moment to spare, and they stepped into the darkness. The clamor of voices struck against them. The torches looked very near. "Not that way. Down the path to the river." In the shelter of the dark bushes, Hannah faltered, clutching at Kit's arm. She could not be budged. "Kit, why are those people coming?" "Hush, Hannah dear, please. I know that sound. I've heard it before. They're coming for the Quakers." "No, Hannah, come." Shame on thee, Kit. Thee knows a Quaker does not run away. Thomas will take care of us." Desperately, Kit shook the old woman's shoulders. "Oh, Hannah, what should I do with you?" Of all times for Hannah to turn vague. But Hannah's brief resolution suddenly gave way, and all at once she clung to Kit, sobbing like a child. "Don't let them take me again," she pleaded. "Where's Thomas? I can't face it again without Thomas." This time Kit succeeded in half dragging the sobbing woman through the underbrush. They made terrible rustling and snapped of the twigs as they went, but but the noise behind them was still louder. The crowd had reached the cottage now. There was crashing as though the furniture were being hurled to splinters against the walls. She was here. The fire is still burning. Look behind the woodpile. She can't have gone far. There's the cat, screeched a woman in terror. Look out! There was a shot, then two more. It got away, disappeared into thin air. There's no bullet could kill that cat. Here's the goats. Get rid of them too. Hold on there. I'll take the goats. Witched or no. Goats is worth 20 shillings apiece. Scotch the witch out. Fire the house. Give us a light to search by. Desperately the two women passed on, over a marshy bog, and dragged at their feet through a cornfield where the neglected shops hid their scurrying figures, past a brambly tangle, to the shelter of the popular trees and the broad moonlight stretch of the river. They had to halt, crouching against a fallen log. Behind them, a flare of light, redder than moonlight, lit up the meadows. There was a hissing and crackling. "My house!" cried out Hannah, so heedlessly that Kit clapped a hand over her mouth. "Our own house, that Thomas built." With the tears running down her own cheeks, Kit flung both arms round the trembling woman, and together they huddled against the log and watched till the red glow lessened and died away. For a long time the thrashing in the woods continued. Voices came very close, and the search party went whacking through the cornfield. Two men came out on the beach, not 20 feet from where they hid. Could she swim the river, think you? Not likely. No use going on like this all night, Jem. I've had enough. There's another day coming. The men climbed back up the river bank. When the voices died away, it was very still. Serenity flowed back over the meadows. The veil of the mist was again unbroken. After a long time, Kit dared to stretch her aching muscles. It was bitterly cold and damp here by the river's edge. She drew Hannah's slight figure closely against her, like a child's, and presently the woman's shudders ceased, and Hannah drifted into the shallow napping of the very old. Okay, that's on page 189, which is next page 188. We will continue on page 189 later.